Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. I've got something that's a little different for you today. There are many community contributors in the community program that Wargaming has, and each community contributor, each community ambassador, has slightly different opinions on the state of the game and where they think the game should be heading. So, the thought I've had is I would like to sit down with each one in turn and just have a conversation about what they think of the game and where they think it's heading, whether they like it, whether they don't like it. Just generally get a sense of, as many different points of view as possible, because when we discuss the game, it's very easy for the conversation to become one-sided if we're not aware of all the various points of view that various people have towards the game. So, to kick things off, today I caught up with fellow community contributor Pillz. He's a Twitch streamer and all-round good chap. So if you like the conversation we've had today, you find it interesting, I'll put a link to his Twitch channel in the description. Check him out. He's a really nice guy. He plays tanks as well as a variety of other games. So yeah, go check him out. And here's the conversation I had with him earlier today. Right, so I believe Cold War came in about a year ago. When it came in, what were your thoughts on it?
Honestly, I thought Cold War had a lot of potential, but they just picked a lot of wrong turns, in my opinion. Putting tanks in the game that were already researched in the World War II tab was a big no-no for me. I'm never going to regrind a tank I've already ground. That is absolutely, positively not going to happen. That was one of the big ones for me. The cost involved with Cold War was really bad. Straight off the bat, it was super expensive. Having to pay millions for an upgrade or a gun upgrade was just disgusting. Now it's not so bad because they've brought in a lot of boosts and ways to ease the pain, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But back when it released, it was just like, oh yeah, here's this new thing, and it costs a load of money. Silver. Here's, go for that. Enjoy. Here's all these tanks you've already ground out, and maybe one or two new tanks, or in some cases one new tank, and you're going to just grind that over again, like the Abrams. You're going to grind that 3 times. Like, what? I know it's different variants of the Abrams, but what?
Oh, I see. So you view, like, for example, the American line, M1, M1A1, M1A2. In your mind is, I'm just playing the same tank 3 times, and it's like, what is it, like a 500,000 XP? Something ridiculous. Yeah. Even though it's even more than that, isn't it? It's loads.
I think it's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know the exact numbers. I haven't even touched the tab since the first Cobra came out. I had to go in there and play that a bit, but look. Yes, they're different packages on the tank, like the M1A1, M1A2, M1A3, or whatever they want to call it. Those are different variants of the same tank. It's like calling an M113A1 and an M113A as4 completely different things. Well, no, they're not. They're essentially the same vehicle, just different upgrade packages. And that's I think it's just dirty, to be honest. The Abrams should be the enterprise of the line, not 3 times over.
I see. So, like, for example, you've got in World War II, you've got the M4, but then you've got that then branches onto the Jumbo and the Easy 8. Is it because that's similar? It's essentially the same thing. They're both M4 variants. So it does happen in World War II, but is it the actual?
I think it's the end result.
Yeah,
I think it's the end result.
And the scale of it as well.
Yeah.
Like no one's asking you to. Sorry, no one's asking you to grind 500,000 XP for an M4 to get another
Exactly.
M4.
Well, and I mean, you choose either the jumbo or the Easy 8. You don't
Yeah.
you don't have to choose like the Easy 8 and then the jumbo, which is essentially what they're doing to you. You know, you want to grind the M4, then you can grind the Easy 8, then you can grind the jumbo. You know, and then you get, you know, what do you get for the T29? You know, after that you can get the T29.
Yeah.
But then you got to get to T29 2 and then T29 3. You know, it
I
just
see.
feels like it's like that's the feeling that I get from Cold War in that line. It's you know, you can have, what is it, 3 tanks you've already got in World War II. You can regrind those. Is it 2 or is it 3? I'm pretty sure it's 3. You get 3 tanks to regrind out
Yeah.
out of that again, and then you get 3 of the same tank, essentially. And it just feels cheap to me. And as I said to you, I'm not about. I played Destiny 1, and that was a grind fest, man. And
Yeah.
Destiny 2, and that was a grind fest. And then when I see similar things going on in this game, it's like, oh, you know, here's the same tank, but it's going to cost you more XP, and it's going to be a lot more silver, and they're going to be playing it a lot more. You know, it's just, I'm not here for the grind, man. Well, I am, but I'm not. I'm not here to grind the same thing. It's like, you know, I'm not gonna play, you know, a racing game to race this same event 3 times over to get the same trophy. I'm not gonna do that. You know, I win the trophy once. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's look at this shiny trophy and enjoy it. Cool, that's done. Let's move on.
Yeah.
That's you know, grind, reward, progression, not grind, reward, grind, reward, same, repeat, grind. You know, like,
So
it's just, yeah.
Okay, so that's lack of variation in the game, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And
In that mode, yeah.
I like Cold War, but I have thought the same thing, especially when I think it was the British lights came out, and my memory's going to let me down now, but the top tier, the very top British light isn't
Manticore?
No, in Cold War, yeah. Yep. The top tier in Era 3 is not. It's not the Warrior. It's not the Warrior IFV which the British use. It's some prototype tank that was in the early 80s or something, and I've found the same thing with the Russians. The top tier Russian tank is a T-72, which, you know, that's a design from 1972. You know, there's a lot more scope for variation, but they haven't utilized it. You know, and I know the Russians have, you know, 72s, they've got the 90s, and then whatever we've got now, because that's what's happened with the American line. The M1A2 is the current American MBT. Mm-hmm. So there's the consistency with the American line being current, but then that level of you know, that consistency level is dropped for different lines, and I don't understand why, because there's more content that they could put in, but they haven't, and I don't know if it's because of, you know, legal reasons or whatever. But for someone like you that feels like you're grinding the same tank over and over again, they've lost a player to their game mode when they didn't need to. You know, they could have put variation in which would have piqued your interest, but they didn't. And
well, you look, they've done that same thing again through all of the line. You look at the TDs, the Charioteer, the Conway, and the FV 4005, all World War II tank. What's it called? This is A-play game mode. All World War II game mode tanks. You know, you've got the Centurion 2. Okay, you could say that's the Centurion.
Yeah.
We got the Centurion 5-1 premium vehicle World War II. The Conqueror. The Chieftain. These are all the World War II tier tanks. You know, what else have we got in here? I think that the first ones that came out, the what is it? The M43A1 was the first one. Then you got the Bulldog, right?
Yep.
And Then you've got the pattern, and these are, once again, these are all World War IIs. You've got the M60 as well.
Yeah.
Like, these are tanks again and again and again that the players have already ground out or already paid tons of free XP to get. The M60, you paid, what is it, 450,000 free XP to
Yeah.
get that tank
Yeah.
in World War II mode. Then what? They bring this out and you've got to grind it now. Yeah, come get the out of here. That's not a good thing, please. People don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know. I didn't get me wrong. I love these tanks. I love them, but it's World War II content. You know, you don't bring out a game mode and then have the same content and call it, Malibu Stacy's only got so many hats they can redo, man. Like,
Yeah. I do.
anyway.
From a development point of view, though, I do think they may have backed themselves into a corner somewhat, because the World War II mode, well, it is called World War II, but they didn't stop with 1945. It carried on. So if there was ever going to be progression with a new game mode, it's almost like, well, they've got no choice. They have to drop in tanks that already exist in the game, because the two timelines have overlapped, and I'd say that's probably because, back in the day, before Cold War was even a design concept on the table, they didn't think to limit what tanks could and couldn't be in the game, because obviously it's a business, you want to make money, you want to sell stuff, so just bring stuff in, and then this new idea comes along and it's crossover, and it's... I can see your point, though. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, as a game developer, I understand they need to have new content. But why didn't they just make tier 11, 12, 13, 14? Like, that's how is that gonna make the gaming community angry? Like, you literally just put a line on the tech tree and just be like, Cold War variant, and just be like, progress past tier 10 to unlock new game mode. Literally, all you do is you get to tier 10, and then you grind your tier 10. And hey, look, then you unlock Cold War, and you go into your progression system, or they just roll it back to tier 8 and be like, once you hit tier 8, this is the Cold War, beginning of Cold War tanks, and they start to progress you into Cold War, and different tech trees have different start points of where Cold War starts. Some are tier 7, some are tier 9. They could have done that. I don't know why they didn't think that.
I see what you're saying. Like,
progression.
so if you're grinding a tier 8, you would have a branch off of that tier 8 to say, unlock the tier 9 World War II, or unlock the tier 9 Cold War, sort of thing. And you'd branch off into the separate game mode.
Yes, you can branch off in a separate game mode. But then once you get past tier 10, they're all Cold War tanks. For instance, if you were playing the straight line, we'll go with the Super Conqueror. Right?
Yeah.
So you grind in the Super Conqueror. You grind the Chieftain. When you press A to launch, you could launch into Cold War or Standard mode, where you can. Standard mode will be World War II. Cold War mode will be Cold War tanks only, where you would come across all your Cold War stuff, your True Vision, your Silver Earnings, all that stuff is Cold War, but it only goes to progress through to tier 10, 11, and 12, etc., etc. You get to your Chieftain, and your Chieftain is still tier 10, but then you play to tier 10, and you're grinding for your tier 11 now. That's it. You're just adding XP to a tank that you're never really going to use. All these people that would have had, for instance, I don't know how much free XP I've got on. Sorry about this, right? 3 XP I've got on my my tier 10s, but I think some of them have got a few 100,000. Yeah. You would literally, all the players who have been playing would have immediately unlocked tier 11. They would have had, all right, cool, tier 11, and I got all these tanks I can purchase now. This is really awesome. And it opens up all this new content immediately for them. Whereas they have to go to Cold War and everyone's going to start again. And they've got all these new old tanks that you got to regrind, which leaves a bad flavor in the mouth because they've just spent 6 months, I don't know, hyphenated commas, grinding out, their M103 and getting their new E5, and now they've got to go back and grind whatever tank line they've got to grind again. That gives you the same tank line, So that that's going to leave anyone with a bad taste in their mouth, right? I mean,
Yes.
unless you're that person that really just likes to do the same thing over again.
I think that approach would also have integrated more players into Cold War mode immediately. Because there wouldn't have been that initial, I've got to start over. Can I be bothered to start over? No, I'm uninstalling. Because it did.
Exactly.
It came in with 6.0, so that was a bad time.
Yeah, mate, I totally agree with you. I sat there, I was streaming, and I think it was my second night of streaming after update 6.0, and I sat there and I put my face in my hands and I thought, can I keep doing this? And it was so it was so hard to keep playing because the game had changed so much, and it was so bad when they first dropped 6.0 that I literally had that moment. I was sitting there and my wife comes and goes, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I've been playing this game for 5 years now, and I think they've just broken it." I'm like, I'm gonna push through, but I don't know how long I can do this for unless they fix it. And it was that bad. It was that bad that I had the face in hands moment. Like, what am I gonna do? You know, this is the game I play. I love this game. I don't stream it and play it all so much because I want the attention and all that sort of stuff. It's because I really like this game. I like the way it plays. It's really hard to play, you know, considering where I am on the planet. It's freaking hard. But there's those moments when you just have, you know, great communication with your friends. You have really good games, and you just sit there and you're smiling from ear to ear because you just absolutely stomp the enemy because you've just had an amazing time, you know, and you've done that with your friends and people watching, and it's great. And then you sit there and you're thinking, can I even do that anymore? Because I can't see who I'm looking at. They're behind rocks, but it's telling me that they're not. It's telling me that I'm looking at someone else, but I'm looking at this guy. You know, all the things that were there at 6.0. So that moment where all these people walked away, I can completely agree with that. But then those are the ones that wasn't a huge problem for. Then there's the whole, wait a second, they've started this new game mode and none of my content carries over. That's just a second slap, you know. Like we just progressed this 6.0 update, which was shithouse. But now we're gonna make you start everything again to progress. Here's the big you. Here's no lube. Enjoy. So
it was. There was a mass exodus at that point, wasn't there?
There was. Yeah, it was a bad decision to release it when they did. And from what I can tell, it was not a case of they wanted to, it's that they had to. And this is just based off of the talks to Minto I had. We all had, you know, he was saying, you know, after the fact, is like, I was given this, you know, to hype up, and it was obvious that they were under a time constraint, and it wasn't something they wanted to release straight away. And we were all told that, and after the fact, but not before the fact. And why super test, why that got through to super test, and why it didn't get stopped in test, going, hey, this isn't ready for release yet, you know, unless they had that. It is releasing on the whatever date it was, unequivocally, regardless of if it's finished or not. You know, doing that in games never works well. How have we not learned from that?
No, I remember it. I mean, the videos that I put out on my channel at the time, prior, just 1 week, 2 weeks prior to 6.0, those are still some of my most viewed videos. Because I was hyping it up because of what I'd heard from Minto, and obviously Minto passed on what he'd heard from his superiors.
We were all told.
There was a lot of hype, and it was. I mean, I think I put together a tribute video to pre 6.0, and still now I'll go back and watch it every now and then, and I think the game is still lacking somewhat in the it was very smooth back in the day, and also the community, I think, was a lot more together. We had 5-man platoons, which I still miss that.
Oh, every single stream, everyone, I have just this. Oh, what, we want to have more than 3 people in platoon? Sorry guys, we're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna miss out, or we're gonna have to split up into 2-man platoons to try and play with my friends.
Yeah.
Like, I loved playing with people. Like, people would come into my streams and I'd play with people on my stream. But now I've got 2 people in my platoon. Oh, that's it. 2 more people have to miss out because we just decided after one test that we were going to do that. Like, the community didn't even like that.
I know.
It literally appealed only to the competitive players who were disadvantaged by 5-man platoons working against them. You know, it didn't appeal to everyday players.
I have heard that a lot, where people would say, "Oh, now that we don't have 5-man platoons, we're not getting ruffle stomped as much." But I still regularly have games where I look at the top line and I'm thinking, well, I'm the last alive and they've got 14 tanks.
Yeah.
So it hasn't changed anything. And I said this in my Discord, I think it was last week as well. I said, I think 80% of 5-man platoons were 5 guys who were 3 beers in, having a laugh.
Having a good time.
Yeah,
being friends.
They were not the super unicums who were tactically placing their tanks and watching the map. They were just there to have fun with friends. And I do feel that
don't play like that.
Wargaming what I don't like about it is that it feels like they've said, right, you can't have fun anymore.
Yeah,
those good times you had, no, we're done.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the thing when someone finds something fun and just giggle worthy in the game, like, hey, you can do this and it's fun and it doesn't disadvantage anyone, but it's fun. They just gotta jump on it really quickly. You know, and I think sometimes, like, you look at older games and there's certain things that they could do, or Easter eggs or just glitches that it would go on in the game that didn't really have any benefit to the player. It was just sort of like, hey, this is goofy and cool, and they left it in there because they were like, oh yeah, cool, this doesn't hurt anybody and it doesn't really give anyone an advantage, so let's just leave it there because it's funny, you know, like, getting thrown across the map in a tank, you know, that's funny as someone drives into a spot and they just get launched into orbit, but you have to try to get to that spot. They actively remove those because, you know, why would we want players doing that? Well, because it's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that disadvantages the other 14 people who are playing super serious, but let's be honest, mate. That one Tog 2 that drives into the middle of Himmelsdorf and gets launched into orbit, no one's going to miss him.
Yeah, there was another spot on Mannheim. When Mannheim first came out, there were some rocks that you could drive through, and if you squeezed your tank under a particular rock, it would just go flying. And it was so there was no tactical advantage to playing that position because true vision meant that you were spotted anyway. People could see you on top of this hill and snipe you from across the map, so there was no advantage. But it was just hilarious to watch a mouse just take off.
I saw that video too. Yep, I saw people doing it with Type 5 heavies and all sorts of things. just good fun, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are certain things of that are just sort of like, oh, you know, that didn't really need to get taken away. You know, there's other things that they could have fixed first that are actually diminishing the game. You know, I don't know how much you have to do with, you know, like ghost rounds or, you know, pulling the trigger and firing backwards, or any of these sort of things that go on.
It's been happening a bit more recently, I will say. I've been playing the Chinese lights in Cold War, and a couple of times, you know, you on my screen, my gun's aimed at the tank, locked on, pull trigger, and the shot just disappears into the abyss. I'm like, well, where did that go?
Yeah, I've got a clip from just the other day where I rammed a Becky Lynch and had my barrel stuffed straight into its center and free-aimed him and pulled the trigger and it just landed in the paddock behind him, directly in the straight line through his hull. And like, so the round isn't disappearing, it's just not registering the tank there, even though he was stationary and held in position.
Yeah.
And it just seems like that is something that they would address reasonably quickly. But they still haven't addressed that, and I don't know whether it's because they don't know what's doing it, or they're just fobbing it off to, oh no, it's just lag. I'm like, well, no, really, it's not. You know, because there are instances where you see people who are physically incapable of lagging. Like you see people who have um, Google Fiber and they've
Yeah.
got amazing connection. They're American players, and they're firing rounds. And they're going out the other side of the tanks. 2 out of a 5 round clip. And they're just like, what the is going on here?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everyone's just like, oh yeah, that happens all the time. And it's like, well, what? Why does it happen all the time? How is that less important than? Sorry, how is that not more important than someone having some fun on the back of a map?
Yeah. There is definitely a priority list at Wargaming. But who writes it and who determines what is and isn't a priority, we don't know.
Yep.
But it does leave me wondering sometimes. Yeah. There have been a few times where I've thought, why has this been done? Who asked for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
I can't remember off my head, but yes, there's a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, the last thing that I want to have a little touch on is the culture within the game, and specifically the culture between Cold War players and World War II players. Now, the reason this has sort of come to my attention it was actually this weekend. I was doing the block 75,000 damage op for, I can't remember what you get a top secret key card and 1,000,000 silver, so it's worth doing, and I'm still working towards that. So I jumped out of Cold War and I jumped into World War II, took my mouse out because I need to block damage, and just sitting at the back of Prokhorovka, spotted, angled, is great fun.
Easy pen. Yeah.
But what I noticed was, I've been playing Cold War for probably 3 or 4 weeks now, non-stop. So I've acclimatized to the player base and what you can expect from players. The second game I played in World War II was in my IS-7, and this Object 432 decided that I had done something that it had upset him, obviously, and whatever I'd done warranted him trying to shove me around the corner. And I thought to myself, this is my second game in World War II, and this is already happening. I haven't seen this happen once in Cold War, and it got me wondering if those that play Cold War are of a different mindset to World War II. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I for one part see that a lot more lately. There's a lot more ramming going on. It's like it came back into style. And generally, in the last month or two, I've seen a lot of my platoon mates and myself getting pushed from behind or rammed by our teammates, and I'm seeing it a lot more on Twitter. Then it seems to be World War II mode.
Yeah.
I can't speak for Cold War. I don't play Cold War, so I really have no representation there at all. But it does seem to be making a comeback in World War II mode. I'm personally seeing it a lot more. I'm seeing it happen to other players a lot more. Like you're seeing off the start map people just like griefing people. You're like,
Yeah.
really? Are we back to this? Like this was 3 years ago. People were doing this, and that was the thing. But actually, I think it was more like third year in the game, but not now. I thought we'd move past that. But it seems like the people who were previously getting reported for that or getting kicked out for that maybe aren't anymore. I don't know.
The report system has changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, and they're saying that it's working, but I don't know. I don't really truly believe that it is, because you can't submit anything. You're just going off the belief that they actually do go through and review the post game data and go have a look at what they attach to the report. But there's one player in this game that has contacted hundreds of players with, just harassment, and basically badgering them, saying he's reporting them for being cheating and calling them names and whatnot. And this is back when Minto was in. I actually did a little campaign against the guy, just like, is this guy sending you messages? And I had dozens of PMs of screenshots of people saying, yes, this guy is messaging me as well with the same thing, just one word, reported. And then from there, when people reply, he just baits them into saying stuff and then tries to get them banned. And I had basically all these screenshots taken. I submitted them all to Minto and said, we need to do something. And that he basically said he's not doing anything. He's not doing anything wrong. If he is reporting, it's not through our systems, so there's nothing we can do about it. I'm like, so the report feature is either not registering or he's doing it through Microsoft. But if he is actually reporting people, they're not registering it because it doesn't work, or it's because he's not doing it. It begs the question, well, would you send reported to that many people when you're not actually doing it? Are you just trying to gaslight people? Like, what's your angle here?
Yeah.
Or is the report function not actually work?
Yeah. There's... It is... Well, it's the internet, isn't it? Strange things happen. It's a strange place and people do odd things. But, yeah...
So, I mean, that's sort of the answer to that question, though, really, isn't it? People are going to be dicks, regardless. So I don't think it matters that they're in Cold War or not. I think they got less opportunity to get away with it in Cold War, because if they're sitting behind you, pushing you out in the open, the enemy can see them at the whole time as well. And
True.
I'm going to shoot them if I see them doing that to people. That's what I do in World War II. If I see someone griefing someone on the enemy team, I shoot the guy in the back, not the guy in the front, because that's what I would want someone to do for me.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I shoot the guy pushing them if I see them both. So I mean, in Cold War, if you can see everyone at both times, maybe, I don't know, they're not going to do that because they don't think they can get away with it. But I'm only speculating because I don't play Cold War. But yes, definitely, I agree with you. It's more common in World War II of recent.
Yeah. Okay. So, takeaway from that is, don't be a dick.
100%. Play the game as you would expect to have played against you.
Yeah.
If someone griefs you, report them. But don't go griefing people back. That just breeds griefing. And by griefing, I mean, don't push people. Don't drive in front of them deliberately to block their shots. Don't, just shoot at them when they're sitting there, and because you can see shot trace. They see shot trace and rounds bouncing off people. People are going to shoot at it.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick. Play the game and enjoy it.
Be nice to people. It's free.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So I've honestly, I started my brother playing this game in January, and he's at tier 9 now. He just got tier 9 on Friday, and he has just been like, there are some dickheads in this game. I'm like, yeah, there are, but there's a lot of lovely people in this game too. Yeah. Where are they?
I had a similar story with my wife. She started to play, and I think she got to tier 4, and her first game in tier 4, someone just decided to, just drive into the side of her the whole game, and she's like, I've only just started playing this. What's going on? This isn't fun. Yep. And it's honestly, it's really put her off, which is a shame because obviously I play it a lot. But yeah, that's just it's unnecessary. Don't do it.
And the new player grind is hard enough as it is. Like,
yes.
You get to tier 5, you start seeing tier 7, and the game just gets really hard, and the matchmaking just gets really brutal, and it's hard enough as it is without your green team making things harder for you. So yeah, it doesn't make it easy.
No, it doesn't. But not everyone's like that. There are some nice people out there.
Yeah, there are. There are lots of people in the community that are fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think it's only a few rotten apples, that sort of thing. They generally do play and get out there. Like, you'll notice the people being dickheads over the people who are just doing their job in the battlefield.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we can call it there for now.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for talking to me, man.
No, anytime, dude. Always happy to have a yarn with you.
Cool.
Haven't cut up in too long.
Yeah.